Joseph, welcome to the Jacked Up Podcast, buddy. It's so good to have you here today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. We've had this going on for a couple of weeks trying to set this up, and it's finally
Yes.
here. Very
Yes,
exciting.
we have. Technology is a wonderful thing, but I will tell you that the level of workload that the quarantine and whatnot has put on the internet and stuff, man, I really struggle a lot sometimes. Some people just have a really, really hard time connecting, and even if they're using Zoom or something like that, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad we could get it worked out and get you back on here because you've got a really cool story. How you went from what you first started off doing, which I'll let you explain, to what you're doing now is like absolutely amazing. So, with that being said, outside of the little bit of information I gave people in the intro, why don't you give our audience the nickel tour of who Joseph is?
Yeah, let me do it as quickly as possible. I'm only 29 years old, but I've lived quite a life. I went to college originally to play baseball and study business. I had a compound fracture and I had to reorganize my life. I knew I wasn't going to play baseball anymore. And I went to school for meteorology. I always loved the weather. And I wanted to be a TV meteorologist. Why not? So I actually went through schooling in Vermont, and it was amazing. I got on TV, worked for a CBS affiliate in Lansing, Michigan. And after the honeymoon was over, which lasted about a year and a half, 2 years, I started noticing behind the scenes I wasn't happy with what was going on in the news industry. And we could talk about that if you wish, but that led me into more of a personal discovery, inner dive, I like to call it, to really understand myself. I got into psychology, I got into life coaching, and that's where I am today as a certified life coach.
Wow. So now what was it? I mean, you were, let's get a little deeper dive into the pivot where you left, your career in television, which I would assume, just given by your personality in the times that we've had discussions, I would assume that you were doing very well there. How did you decide to make that pivot? Was there something about that particular career that just didn't seem to sit well with you, or was it just a matter of you wanting more?
Yeah, it really was just the person that I am. I have a huge heart, and I really have always looked for truth in life, always been searching for what is life about, like what's the meaning of life. Mm-hmm. And I noticed behind the scenes, they were twisting stories, and it seemed like the news wasn't as honest as I thought it was.
Right.
For example, they would come in during a winter storm, and I would say, "Hey, it's not looking like it's going to hit us as much. It's going to trail off. I'm going to lower the amounts." And they'll say, "Well, let's keep the amounts where they are. We need some more viewers." And when you start to learn how the news industry is built, it's built based off of viewers because that they get their money from ads. The
Sure.
ads are based off of how many viewers they get. So, if it's fine and dandy and everything's going well, you're not going to have as many people watching the news. But if there's fear, if there's a lot of emotion going on in the public domain, the news thrives on those type of stories. So for me, it just did not settle right. A lot of superficial personalities behind the scenes. And, it just got to a point where I knew I couldn't do this much longer. It just didn't feel right inside.
Right. It's powerful that you touched on that because people don't understand that you only see what people want you to see. And it doesn't matter whether it's the media or whether it's you as an individual. It's kind of funny. I'm actually going through this thing on Facebook. It's a 30-day challenge. Well, in this case, it's 31 days where you go live every day in this Facebook group for 31 days. And it's designed to help you be more comfortable on camera and things like that. But they give you these assignments each day of, this mission that you have to complete or whatever. And it's so cool because you start to tap into things. And the mission actually today, it's so funny that we're having this conversation and this was what happened, was we needed to compare how we saw ourselves versus how we think the world perceived us. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of how I went about it. The world's only going to perceive us based on what we show them.
Yeah.
So I think it's really powerful. It's almost like it was meant to be that we would have this discussion because everything is all tied together. It really is. So now, okay, obviously, and nowadays we know that the media is a mess. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get into the weeds of that whole thing. But, it's like, so you realized that what you were doing wasn't for you and you wanted more. You seem to me to be the type of person that you're always wanting to reach out and help people. Obviously, you've become a life coach and so many other things. So what was it like making that transition, and how did you go about becoming a life coach? Was it doing a lot of study in the area of psychology and whatnot first, or how did that all come about?
See, the transition was tough because once I made the decision, I went into the office to talk to the news director and the owner of the station. And they said, well, on your contract, you have 3 months you have to sit here and help out your next, you kind of, train the next meteorologist that's going to take your place. So I had to stay for 3 months and go on. And again, the newscast is live. It's not recorded. So, you got to put on that persona. You got to fit into the role. It's actually fitting into the role as everyone else is, the real superficial, just faking it. That's how I felt for those 3 months. So it was really difficult. And then what happened was when I did, like I said, that inner dive, and I knew that I wanted to help people. I had an experience, we'll call it a synchronicity type experience, where somebody just came up to me, said God led them to me, and I was supposed to talk to them. And I had a moment where I said, this is probably what I'm supposed to do. When I got into my own psychology and started working on myself, I started noticing changes. And it wasn't even mental. It was also physical. I was physically feeling different, not only mentally. So the more I went into biohacking, the more I got into, self-improvement and self-growth, I was like, wait a second. I got the clinical psychology degree. I said, wait a second, I want to do more. It's not just about the mind. It's also the body. And life coaching seemed to be the best role to fit in, mind and body as a professional to get a certification. And so that's really what led me to life coaching.
That's awesome. And now you had a relatively unique experience. I haven't run across many people like you. You actually developed type 1 diabetes, which is insulin dependent, later in life. That's not something that happens unless you've either been type 2 for a long time and you weren't taking care of it, and you basically burn out your pancreas because it was overproducing insulin, or something like that. But in your case, it's just like, I guess, just came out. Why don't you tell us about that and how that all came about? Because I'm extremely curious about that, being type 2 diabetic myself.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Yep.
Man, diabetes, the doctors really don't know, to be honest with you, about me personally. They called it late onset, but I had one doctor telling me that you can get diabetes from viruses, which is so interesting to think about. But they said that the virus caused my antibodies to attack my pancreas, which in turn, produced type 1 diabetes in me because my pancreas wasn't working anymore. And I think, honestly, that also helped me really understand and connect with the body, because you have to know as a diabetic when you're low, when you're high, how foods are interacting with you. And just that connection of always being tied to your body helped me make that connection about mind and body. And just through psychological work, I've noticed that I've been able to, I guess, help the diabetes, because stress is one of the things that can really influence sugars and influence your glucose readings. So, if you're able to mentally put yourself in a place, maybe through meditation or breathing exercise, in a calmer place, then you're going to help your body out, because diabetes is very tough on the body and you have to take it serious. Yeah.
Extreme. It's like it's so cool that you touched on that, because you're right. Stress is something that a lot of people they chalk it up to, this is life. I have a tough job, all these different things. And they just live with the stress. And what they don't seem to understand is the fact that when you are under a lot of stress, there are chemical reactions that happen in your body. Your body releases a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is an absolute, it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing. Okay. It cuts off fat burning, period. You might as well forget it. If you're trying to lose any kind of body fat whatsoever, if your cortisol levels are high, it's not happening. It's just that simple. And I also found it funny that you talked about it actually being a virus that brought that on. Because now it makes sense to me. When I was reading through your bio and everything, and I found out that had happened, I was like, that's one of the biggest reasons I've been chomping at the bit to get you on here, because I wanted to find out how in the hell did that happen. But now it makes sense to me because, at the end of the day, your pancreas is what generates the insulin. So if something happens to your pancreas, guess what? You don't have any insulin and your blood sugar is going to get all out of control. So now, you have used, from my understanding, a combination of nutrition, intermittent fasting, breathing exercises, and even cryotherapy to help you maintain your health, which obviously you seem to be in very good health. How did you come across these different practices, and how did you implement them?
I think it's important for people to first realize that we're all different. We're all unique in our own ways. So each of us has to become knowledgeable and understanding about what specifically we personally need. And for me, being a diabetic, one of the big things about diabetes is inflammation throughout the body. And I started doing research on it and noticed that the cryotherapy actually helps reduce inflammation. And I said, okay, I've worked on my mind. I've done this breathing exercise called the Wim Hof Method. And if you don't know Wim Hof, he's known for his cold ice therapy and climbing mountains without any shirt or pants on. You know Wim Hof, okay?
Yes, I know Wim Hof very, very well. Yes.
So personally for the cryotherapy, I said, okay, let me do this Wim Hof method. Let me get myself in a good place because it's cold, minus 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Let me see how it works. And I tried it out once and it was unbelievable. I've just noticed I could feel my body better. There's more flexibility. And then just through that, it's like, wait a second, this is like a muscle. Our bodies are like a muscle. If you do push-ups every day, you're going to grow muscle. If you don't, you're not going to grow muscle. So it's with anything. Yeah. So why not become curious about yourself and see what needs improvement and then figure out how to improve it and start doing those actions? It makes life really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. It's like the first time I heard about Wim Hof, I was listening to the audio book by Aubrey Marcus, Own the Day, Own Your Life.
Yeah.
Love that book. And he was talking about how it was like absolutely brutal when he was trying to start this because your body is naturally going to react to it. But just as you said, it's a muscle. You just need to take the plunge and do it. And it doesn't even have to be cryotherapy. Something that works very, very well if you're the type of person that goes to a gym and now, mind you, this is after all this COVID stuff's over and they actually start opening everything back up again. But it's like, because my gym's open, but the sauna isn't open in the gym. But one of the best ways that you can get the same effect of the cryotherapy without actually having to go there is sit in a sauna for half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You sit in a nice dry sauna for half an hour and then immediately run and get a cold shower. Because while you're sitting in the sauna, all that heat is working within the body to help reduce inflammation, lactic acid from your workout, and all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go and you jump in a cold shower, the cold shock proteins, man, I'm telling you what, it's just like the water temperature could be 40 degrees, but it feels like it's 10 below. Mm-hmm. It's truly amazing. And I have found personally, because I've been doing that ever since I first heard about any kind of cold water immersion or anything like that. I've been doing it ever since, and I've noticed a huge difference in my recovery for sure.
Wow. Yeah. Sauna's another one that's it's a short activity that you can do to really help your body out, give it a little bit of a boost. And the more you work with your body, at least I notice, the more I work with my body, the more it starts working with me. And it's like a little relationship that you form. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm going to tell you what, I have been, this year's been kind of rough for me because I had a knee replacement in December. So I get through all the therapy there and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to start going to the gym again. The doctor says, you got the green light, go ahead. I was in the gym for 3 weeks and they shut the gyms down for COVID. So then gyms opened back up. I think I went and worked out twice. Found out I had what's known as an epigastric hernia, which is a tear in the fascia in between your abdominal muscles. And what was happening was my abdominal wall was starting to push through it. I just woke up one day and I felt this lump. I'm like, what in the hell is that? So then I had to wait and have hernia surgery to have that repaired. And then it was like, the doctor's like, well, you can't lift anything over 10 pounds for 30 days. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
30
so now
days.
Everything's a green light, and I've been going to the gym again, and I'm telling you, I've been to the gym 3 times, and the difference I feel now compared to what I felt 2 weeks ago, it's night and day, man. It's night and day. People don't understand. Just get up and move. Do something.
That's it.
Sitting around Netflix and chill will kill you. Plain and simple. It'll kill you.
100%. 100%. And you said 3 days it took?
Yeah.
That's
All it
it
took was 3 days of going to the gym. I've been to the gym 3 times since I was released to start lifting weights again. And the first 2 days that I was there, I was taking things extremely easy because I didn't want to, even though he said I'm good to go, and they fixed it with like a wire mesh patch, so to speak. Okay. I wanted to make sure I eased back into it because, it's one of those things. The last thing I want to do is go tearing something that they just fixed.
Right. So, and then have to sit around and Netflix and chill.
Well, I'm never Netflixing and chilling. I'm in my office 20 hours a day, but I'm either working with clients or I'm doing some volunteer coaching in a big Facebook group that I'm a part of or something. I'm always doing something, but I'm never just sitting around and chilling, for sure.
And then quickly, another thing about that, and then we'll go to where you were going. Another thing with that is the body likes to get used to patterns and habits. And it gets stuck sometimes on, maybe some bad patterns that you've done. But just going to the gym a few days a week, the first couple of days are going to be rough. But after like a week or two, same thing with foods. You want to change your diet. It's going to be tough. But after a week or two, your body gets used to it. And then you built a new program. And to me, that's really what makes life fun. In a sense, you don't need to Netflix and chill. You can just keep building programs and reinventing yourself in a sense.
Exactly. As human beings, we are incredibly adaptable. There's the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It sounds kind of funny, but if you break it down to its essence, it's 100% true. Okay. You tear down muscle fibers, your body is going to build those muscles stronger. So the next time that same type of stressor comes along, your body's more equipped to handle the problem. That's how muscles built. That's how, we talked about the mind-body connection, and I want to get into that a little deeper here in just a minute. Being able to do things like that and, realizing how everything is connected. That's what I like to call the juice of life. Okay. When you can connect everything together, man, it's just like, there are people that practice religions and all this different stuff, and they talk about the third eye and all these other things. And I don't know much about that stuff, but I can tell you, it's like you're opening up your eyes for the first time when you start to make those connections.
Yes, that's
Absolutely.
It. And I became more spiritual in a sense through this. Which is funny you just said that.
Exactly.
Not religious, but spiritual.
Right. It's like when I started this podcast, it was all going to be about nutrition. It was going to be about nutrition and exercise, and that's all it was going to be about. But as I have listened to different things and read books, because I'm constantly, I don't listen to music anymore unless I'm in the gym, and then it's really angry music, and I'm just rah, rah. But as far as any other time, I'm either listening to, like a lot of times when I'm here working in my office, I have binaural beats or something playing in the background, something that just calms my mind.
Yes.
But I'm always listening to podcasts or audiobooks or something like that because I'm always trying to expand what's going on. And it's just, the more I hear and the more I learn, it's just like everything is so connected. And that's why I actually broadened the horizons of the podcast and made it to be about everything that you could consider under the umbrella of wellness. Mind, body, spirit. They're all connected. So why not talk about all of them?
Definitely.
Yep, for sure. So now we talked about the mind body connection, and I know you're a real big proponent of that, and that is one of the things that you foster with your clients that you help as far as a life coach is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you touch on some of the principles that you like to use to help people come to that realization?
So I like to use myself as an example because I've lived it and I feel like it's authentic when I talk about it. And,
Right.
Even this diabetes that we're talking about, you can have the best mind ever, but if your body's hurting, it's going to affect your mind. So it's a
Absolutely.
dual relationship and you have to see it in both ways. You can't just see it as, oh, I'm going to build my body and my mind's going to be beautiful. And you can't just say, oh, I'm going to build my mind and my body's going to be beautiful. Everything's a balancing act. And that just goes with anything in life. So I like to explain to people that a lot of nature is energy. Everything's basically energy. Energy has to have both poles, a pole of each other. There can't be light without darkness. There can't be a good without bad. There can't be a mind without a body. And in this relationship, being able to explain it to people and show them that, we are mind and body and how the mind can affect the body or the body can affect the mind, it gets them to at least start thinking about things more. Where in their body are they maybe not connected or they're not taking care of it. The body again is diet, it's exercise, it's more of the physical realm, and then the mind is more psychological. It's the psychic realm. And then in the mind, there's two aspects of the mind. There's the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. So just going into that is a whole new relationship of those two opposite ends that you have to really get a good grip on, because you could be, again, the greatest athlete in the world, but if your mind's not there and you can't, and one little thing could throw your attention off, then in your performance, you're not going to be 100%.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. It's like people. I talk to people all the time about the inner workings of the body in and of itself, because I think one of the biggest problems in society today is people really don't understand what goes on inside the human body. They don't understand what the different macro and micronutrients. They don't understand what those are for. Why we need to eat them and what they do in the body. They don't realize that all these different things play a part in all these different, chemical reactions within the body and stuff like that. And it's lack of knowledge that is killing people, in my opinion, because, we look at what I feel, and I've said many times on this podcast, and I'll continue to say it till somebody listens and does something about it besides me. I believe that the biggest pandemic that this world has ever seen and ever will see is obesity. And it is one that nobody is doing jack shit about.
Yeah.
Or the majority of people aren't. And the reason is because when you look at the numbers of the diet industry and how much money is generated every year from the diet industry. You have gyms that have free pizza and free Tootsie Rolls for their members.
Yeah.
To me, that's keeping them unhealthy. And it's keeping them unhealthy for the sole purpose of generating revenue. When you break it down to brass tacks, if you work with somebody's mindset, like in my case, I'm a holistic nutritionist. And what that means is I address all things. I address everything that's going on in your mind, everything that's going on in your relationships, in your personal life, in your job, all these other things, because every one of them, if there are different pieces of those puzzles that are not in place, that causes imbalance. And when you have imbalance, a lot of times people have a tendency to cope by either not going to exercise, eating things that they know that they shouldn't eat. Obesity, for 95% of the people that suffer from it, is a choice. They made that choice. They put the food in their mouth. You know what I'm saying? They did all these things, but nobody's doing anything to say, hey, we need to educate you the right way, so that way we don't have to deal with so much of this anymore. So I can talk about that for hours and hours. It's a very, very passionate thing for me, but I don't want to take up all of our time.
One thing that actually is popping up about that is really the effect that, and this is again that mind body relationship. Food is more affecting the body, but the I don't know exactly what to call it, but what you get off of the food can cause an addiction in the brain. And then that can cause your mind to start, wanting that throughout the day. So one little treat can cause you to become obese in a sense. One bad moment of imbalance that you were just talking about can cause you to start, maybe eating a little bit off of your norm. And then your body gets used to that habit, and it gets used to those, that taste in a sense.
Yeah. What you're speaking, to your point, what you're speaking of is dopamine. Okay.
That's it. That's
what gives you that hit of dopamine out of all the foods that you eat, what gives you that hit of dopamine is carbohydrates. Okay. Yeah. When those carbohydrates hit your bloodstream, it immediately causes a chemical reaction, sends signals to the brain, and your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is like nature's drug. Okay. You get high as shit off of it for about 20 minutes, and then it drops off to nothing because it burns up very fast in your system. So what winds up happening is people that are trying to control their nutrition, when they eat too many carbohydrates, if they're not following some sort of structured plan that'll keep them on point, and they eat too many carbohydrates, they get that hit of dopamine, and as soon as it drops off, the brain likes it. The brain loves dopamine. So it's like, we need more. So your brain releases all these neurotransmitters to tell your body to crave more of the carbohydrates. Yeah. So, like I can remember, I don't think they use the slogan anymore, but they used to back in the day. I remember Lay's potato chips, and their big slogan was, bet you can't eat just one. You bet your ass you can't eat just one, because as soon as you eat you eat one or two of them. Yeah. That's it, man. Your brain's like, let me pump this stuff out. And the next thing you know, you're sitting there with a bag full of crumbs because you ate the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
And it's just common sense. It's just a little bit of education. And, people like yourself, that I really love your approach with helping people because of the fact that, granted, you coach people in more aspects than just, health and whatnot, but the fact that you tie the mind in to everything, that is so powerful, because it's like, I like to tell the story that I heard Tony Robbins say one time. He was at this school to learn to drive race cars, and he was going around a track super, super fast, and he started to lose control, and he kept staring towards the wall because he was afraid he's going to hit the wall. And his instructor said, look, every time something like this happens and you look towards that wall, you're going to hit the wall. Don't look at what you're afraid of. Look at where you want to go. And he just couldn't grasp that concept. And after 5 or 6 times going around the track and the instructor working with him, finally he was losing control again, and he looked at the wall, and the guy literally just shoved his head around the other way, and he brought the car right around and gained control and just kept going. And that proved a point to him. It's all about what you're looking for. If you're looking to be healthier and you truly want to find it, you'll find it. And it doesn't matter whether you find it on your own or if you find the person that's going to help you get there.
That's a powerful story. And then also our taste buds, they change and adapt. You said earlier, everything in us adapts. Absolutely. So there's another thing that adapts. Everything. It keeps the hope that you're not going to waste your time in those 2 weeks to a month when it's tough.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I know that you deal with things like we've already discussed. You help people with breathing and meditation and things like that. I have, in our discussions, we've talked about the fact that you deal a lot with nervous system regulation. Now, a lot of people don't realize that there's actually 2 separate nervous systems within the body. There's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. Why don't you touch on that a little bit and give our listeners some of your valuable information?
Well, really the parasympathetic nervous system is the one that it keeps us calm. It conserves energy. It has the blood flowing throughout the body. It has the heart rate down. There's also the sympathetic nervous system that is that fight or flight that you probably know about. But what you don't know about the fight or flight is there's a stigma about it that it seems like it's a bad thing to be in. And actually, there are some short-term benefits to it. So, for the flight or fight, it's gonna raise heart rate. It's gonna use up energy. So think when you're going to the gym, that's what you want to be going on when you're at the gym. You want to be in that mode so you can pound out a couple more push-ups. So putting yourself into that fight or flight mode while you're in the gym or athletic performance can help you because, like you talked about the cortisol, that's going to improve focus, attention. It's that ancient lion when we were cavemen, or at least not civilized as we are today, that ancient lion that we see, and it puts us in that mode, hyper awareness, a lot of energy being used. So it does have a positive. Now, if you're in that mode for a long time, it stresses the body. It starts to use up energy. That's when you become lethargic. You don't feel like moving. That's when the blood really isn't going to your extremities. It's only going into your organs. So your body's really going to start deteriorating if you're living in a stressful place over a long period of time. So any kind of stress is going to keep you in that state. And what I like to do if I notice somebody's struggling with that is just to go back to the breath. And I've noticed personally, if I'm taking a breath in my nose and it's just getting to my chest, I'm a little uptight. I might be in that sympathetic nervous system because it's more of a tense feeling. Now, if we can work through it and get that breath up the nose to the stomach or the diaphragm, and then up the chest, and then let it out the mouth and get into a little bit of a flow, people will start to notice that their body starts to relax. They're not feeling like tense and tightened up, and that gets people to really start to open up and control, in a sense, their nervous system.
Yeah, breath is so powerful. I think it was, I'm trying to remember where I heard it from. I think it was actually another thing that I heard in the Aubrey Marcus book. And he was talking about how Chinese researchers had realized they had done this study with, I think it was over 100,000 people. And what they realized was that you could literally lower your heart rate, your blood pressure, and your level of cortisol by simply taking 6 deep breaths. Not 3, not 4, something about 6 was the magic number. And they did, this study lasted like 3 years. So they studied a lot of this stuff.
Wow.
And just think how powerful, if you can do things like that by just sitting and being mindful enough to take 6 deep breaths, imagine what happens when you start to control your breathing on a regular basis. So much of it, man, so much of it is all connected. People's health is about so much more than just what you eat, how many times you go to the gym, if you make sure that you don't have cream put in your Starbucks. It's more than all that crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's the diet industry, and to be quite honest, the fitness industry. Mm-hmm. There are, and I guess it's in any walks of life, you have your good people and you got bad apples in every tree, so to speak.
Yeah.
But the way that the fitness industry is laid out, and the way that some fitness professionals have a tendency to go about doing things, there are times that I run across stuff that I'm like ashamed to be a fitness professional because they're giving me a bad name. Doesn't matter that I treat everybody that I work with respect, and my ultimate goal is to give them the tools that they need, so 6 months or a year from now they don't need me anymore. I don't want them to be lifetime clients.
Yeah,
I want to teach them what they need to know, get them on the path to a healthier life, and wish them well, man.
Yeah, well,
that's all there is to it.
It's about dependency. A lot of people like to give their dependency to drugs or give their dependency to different, different people, government. And the more you give yourself away, the less you're giving your power away, the less power you have. And a lot of these organizations don't want the power to be in the individual because then we won't need as many different places to go, So it's an interesting little balancing act with society. But I think people are starting to notice that power that we do have. And it looks like the world's starting to shift a little bit more into that realm of consciousness, of breathing, of life coaching, of wellness, especially.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I can remember when I first heard the term wellness, I first heard that, and it was like they would have wellness centers, and it was typically like a downscaled, very calm, very friendly gym environment for elderly people to go to.
Yeah.
That was the first time I'd ever heard the term wellness. But I noticed in the last like 8 to 10 years, because so many people, like yourself, are starting to speak out on all these other things and how everything is connected and how you can control certain aspects of the things you do, whether it's breathing or taking a cold shower or stuff like that, and how it can make a dramatic impact on the quality of your life. Man, wellness is like, it's all encompassing now. It's everything. I'm 53 years old and I'm sitting around burning incense and listening to binaural beats, and I've got the lights all turned down in my office, and I've got blue blockers on my monitors, and I'm sitting here and I'm still working. But what I've noticed is, by doing these things, 5 hours worth of work that used to be painstaking for me because I'm a perfectionist when it comes to a lot of stuff, it'd be like the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
5 hours would go by, I'd have all this work done, and I would just feel so much better.
Yeah. That's what happens when you fix up your environment, especially your mental environment. Usually there's a lot going on, but if you can calm things down and start breathing and meditating and just relaxing, then you're in that flow state when you're working or performing.
Right.
And then time goes like that. Your work is like that. You're thinking of things and getting things that you've never gotten before. And that's huge for me and my clients, is to build that inner spirit, that inner intuition and creativity, and try to get into that flow for any performance, whether it's working out, sports, or even just building or creating something at home in your office.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. And it's funny that you said that, because that's actually what I was just getting ready to ask you next, because I know that flow state, the term flow state is a relatively new term. You just started hearing about it in the last couple of years. Most people don't understand, what the actual meaning of that is. And you kind of touched on it a little bit there just a minute ago, but why don't you give the audience just a kind of a bigger view of what it is and some of the best ways to try to achieve that?
Yeah, again, everyone individually has their own ways to kind of get into it, but it really does depend on that quieting of the conscious mind and allowing, which we talked about a little bit earlier, that unconscious mind to start talking. And a great way to get to that is meditation, because in meditation, what you're doing is you're trying to be still. You're trying to not be in the future thinking of different things that happen, or in the past, things that happen in the past. You're trying not to be controlled by what's coming up, thoughts that are coming up. You're trying to just be there in the present moment. And the more that you build that presence and that understanding of that moment, the more that you can kind of enter this realm called the flow state. Many people get into it actually unknowingly. A good example is maybe watching a movie. You watch a movie and you're so involved in the story, your conscious mind's not thinking, and you're just hyper aware. By the time the movie's over, it's like, oh my goodness, where'd that time go? Another great way that it could be described as is maybe a conversation with somebody that you guys talk for maybe 2, 3, 4 hours, and it went by really quickly. It's like, whoa, where did that time go? That's the flow state. Now, building towards becoming, to enter that flow state, it really is an understanding of yourself and how the environment affects you. So for you, with the beats, with you in the lower lights, and kind of setting up that environment and testing out different things with my clients, we would work on that and try to build a place where, they can almost feel like they're entering that flow zone and putting their mind into, okay, this is my place. And then after like 5-10 minutes of work getting into it, they start to notice that, they just get overwhelmed by it. And it's, yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's tough to explain, though.
Right.
Because there's no science.
When you sit back, now that you explained it like that, what I just sat here and described to you before I ask you that question, that's what it is. I set my mood, I do my things, and then when it's time to go to work, I get the work done and the time flies by. And then the next thing you know, I've gotten all this work accomplished. I'm not stressed. I'm not tired and exhausted like I used to be before I started doing some of these things. And don't get me wrong, there are times that I still, go crazy. it's like I was getting, as we were talking before we started recording, I just launched this new program called Project Meltdown, where everything is specifically designed for the people that are involved. In other words, I've got a workout designed, but I designed it in a way that depending on whether they could get to the gym 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, or even if they couldn't get to a gym at all, I could still give them the same amount of work that would produce the same amount of volume as it would if they were working out 5 days a week versus 3 days a week. So, and then the nutrition is all tailored too. So it's like everything is specific. It's not just one of these things where, okay, this is my program. You got to follow this diet and you got to do this workout, but I had to make some last minute changes due to the software that I was using to run everything. I thought it was going to do one thing for me and it didn't. And I had like 36 hours to basically reprogram this whole thing in an entirely different way. And it was like a good 18 of those 36 hours I was working on it, but it was amazing because just by changing those things, it's like, okay, let's bring down the lights, let's turn on the music and doing all this stuff. It was just, I didn't feel as exhausted at the end of it all. Even though I spent 18 hours nonstop working on this thing, I wasn't exhausted. I was all done and I was able to go out and spend time with my wife and do things like that because, I changed my mind. I changed my state. Flow state.
I love it.
For sure.
And I have that meteorology background. If you don't know what a barometer is, it's a measure of pressure. And what I like to say is we should be our own barometers in our own environments and see what works for us and what doesn't work. Another thing that really works for me is just going on long walks. If I go on a long walk, it's almost like a flow state for me. Things just start coming up that I just was not expecting. And it's just little things like that to become curious about yourself and become a barometer of how different things affect you in your life. It really could work wonders for you personally.
Yeah, I'm just, I've listened to so many different things as I have started to open my mind throughout this whole process. And I think that, when I sit and I look back at the last 18 months, I'm glad things happened the way that they happened. Me having a lot of physical issues and having a lot of downtime, everything shifted me to where I had a lot more time to stop and breathe. My job before I started my business, I was a machine operator in a factory, and I worked anywhere from 12 to 16 hours a day, just depending on the demand for product. So it's like, plus I was in the gym 2 hours a day. And then, I've got a wife and 4 kids and 2 grandkids. So, my life was hectic as hell.
Yeah.
All that downtime came along and it really gave me time to sit and contemplate a lot of things and start to reach out and study and listen to all this different information. And it has opened me up in a way that at my age, in my 50s, I never would have thought that my mindset would be now. If you'd have told me 10 years ago that I'd be burning incense and listening to binaural beats while I'm working on YouTube videos in my 50s, I'd be like, man, you're out of your damn mind. But it's such a change, and it's invigorating. It really is. Knowing, and I know you've got to feel this too, when you can reach out to people, when you're helping people get through some of the biggest struggles of their lives sometimes, and you just imparting some wisdom on them or being there for them, whatever it takes, being able to affect people's lives in that way is so powerful, and it's so rewarding. I mean, it's a reward in and of itself. If you're not doing it to make a living, you're still getting rewarded.
Yeah. No, it really is. It's amazing. It really is amazing. And it's amazing how quickly things can change. In 2 sessions, 3 sessions, I'll have somebody, and what it is they just haven't allowed, like you just said, that space to be able to just breathe. And I like to provide that space, and you can hear it. You can hear the energy when something is released. It comes out and they're like, oh. And then after that, they get all these new insights. And it's like, that energy block has been lifted, and now they can move forward. And it's really, like you said, it's rewarding. I get goosebumps every single time it happens.
Yeah. And I like that you touched on that too, because I've literally been like on Zoom calls, because I think I've got 3 clients that I work with hands on. Everybody else they're all over the world. But it's like, I've been in Zoom calls with people and they've been talking to me about different things that they're struggling with. They're like, I don't know what it is. I just can't seem to stick to my nutrition. I'll be doing really great for a day or two, and then I'll have a bad day at work or this or that or the other. And I just give up, and then I have to start all over again. And I'll sit there and I'll have a conversation with them. And as I'm guiding them towards a realization of what it actually is that's going on within them that's causing this behavior, you can hear it. You can hear it in their breath. It's like their chest opens up and their voice actually changes. It's phenomenal. And it's addicting. For guys like us that do it, it's addicting as hell. That's our dopamine. You know what I mean? We're like, oh, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then people wonder why, it's like, I've had friends ask me, why do you spend 15, 20 hours a day in your office doing all this stuff? That's why. That's exactly why.
Sure. And then also for us, just going through this and hearing people's stories and doing the podcast. I also have a podcast. You just learn so much. The whole journey is just quite amazing.
Yeah.
Quite amazing.
One of the best things I did was making a pivot with my YouTube channel. When I first started out, dude, I was doing the talking head informational videos, and I was bored as hell making them. So I knew people had to be bored watching them, and it showed because they weren't getting any views. I was putting out some really good information. I mean, from a clinical aspect, as far as what different macronutrients did in the body. I did a video breaking down the ketogenic diet in detail, things like that. So I put out a lot of good information, but I just wasn't getting any traction because I was boring as shit. And then I made a pivot, and I decided to start the podcast. And I've gone since March. Now, granted, I'm not killing them. I don't have 1 million subscribers. I don't have the YouTube plaques and all that stuff. But I went since March from 23 subscribers to over 100.
Wow.
And I know that the audio versions of the podcast are getting about 4,000 to 6,000. It ranges 4,000 to 6,000 downloads per episode. So for somebody that's just started something in March and a year and a half ago, I didn't know how to do all this stuff that I'm doing. I think I'm doing okay. But at the end of the day, if I can come in and I can turn this camera on and I can talk to guys like you and we can share our knowledge between each other and at the same time share it with everybody that listens to this stuff, we couldn't do that 10 years ago. We couldn't do that 15 years ago. No. You had to work with people on one-on-one basis, or you had to build yourself up to the point where you were doing keynote speeches and things like that before you could touch people en masse. And now we can pick up our cell phone. We can go live on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and we can take 5 minutes and just share something.
It's so powerful.
It's powerful, and it's amazing. I can't count the times that I've gotten a comment or a direct message or something saying, that little thing that you talked about the other day, that just really struck home with me, and I want to thank you for sharing that. And man, it doesn't get any better than that.
No, they're the moments
for sure.
And just what's quite amazing is the amount of people that I'm starting to notice through social media that are interested in helping others. Because I saw social media for the past 5 years as just something to stay away from. It's hurting people, but it's like a double-edged sword. It has quite an amazing realm. I've talked to people from Africa, and I just started coming out with my own material about 2 months ago. So, people from Africa, people from Sri Lanka, people from all over the place, curious about my message, sharing me their message. Everyone has the same experiences with the mind and body. And it's just amazing to have those clarifying points with people throughout the world and making those connections. It's wonderful.
In today's world right now, with everything that we're going through and the so-called new normal, which who the hell knows what that's going to be when it's all said and done. But we're social people. we are social animals. We are designed that way. We're not loners. And anybody that tells you they are a loner, there's something going on inside that makes them that way.
Yeah.
But because we are so social and so communal, this whole thing of, having to have these conversations like this right here, I think this, even after Corona, they find a cure and everybody's vaccinated and all that good stuff. I think what has developed out of all this, I don't think it'll be going away anytime soon. I think it's going to be around for quite a while. And anybody like yourself, like me, or I would strongly urge anybody out there that has a message that they want to use to help people, this is the way to do it. I don't care if you create a Facebook page and start doing live videos on Facebook, or just putting together posts, whatever you're good at, whatever you can find to do to reach out and get your message out there, do it, because stories are powerful. Your story, going through everything you went through, finding out you had type 1 diabetes, and how you have lived through that, and, used all these other different avenues to increase your health. Me going from 400 pounds to being the person I am now, where I'm healthy and I'm helping other people. Those stories are powerful. And like you said at the beginning of this, you can help people because you've walked the walk. I can help people because I've walked the walk. Just like this program that I'm doing now with these guys. I'm not just telling them what to do. I'm in there doing it with them because as I get older and I've had issues, I've picked up some weight, complete transparency. Hey, this is me. Doesn't change my knowledge. It just says that I had issues. Now the issues are over. So it's time to get my ass back to work. And not only am I going to tell you what to do, I'm going to do it right along with you. So,
and it's powerful.
I definitely, I can't urge people enough to just, if you've got a story, share it. Plain and simple.
it was so funny you said that, because I was going to say, anybody out there that's thinking about, creating a page or sharing a message, me personally, it took me 2 to 3 years to say, you know what, you can do it. Because I would almost get there, and then I'd say, what do you do? Who cares about what you have to say? And that nasty shadow within me would stop me and stop me. And then finally, I broke through. Coronavirus was like, all right, it's time. Who cares what's going to happen? And that's the mentality. Just who cares? Just do it. Let go. Be present and let go.
Exactly. It's like everybody's doing it anyway, and most of them look like idiots. So I'm just one more of the crowd. Who cares? And that's we were talking. I was telling you earlier about that challenge that I'm doing on Facebook, and that's it. That one of the biggest things that people take away from this, and they do this every year. They do it twice a year. They do it once in April and once in August. The biggest thing that people take away from all this isn't the fact that they're better on camera. Isn't the fact that they know the tech a little better and they can put together a decent production or anything like that. What they take away from it is that whatever your message is, you have the strength within you to put that message out there. And you may be sitting around, you may have started a YouTube channel and just sat there and looked at it for 2 years and not put the first video up. Doesn't matter. You have the strength inside you to do that. It's just a matter of tapping into that inner strength and letting it loose. Because it's there. There's no doubt about it.
And another thing
friend,
is,
we're getting ready to run out. Huh? No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, a lot of people, they think it has to be perfect. No, nothing in life can be perfect. There is nothing that's perfect. If you strive towards wholeness, that's better. But if you're striving for perfection and you're hit with a loss, you're going to take it to heart instead of a lesson.
Yeah.
Seeing losses as lessons, and just that mind shift would really help a lot.
It would. I mean, hell, anybody can go back and look at the first videos I put on my YouTube channel. I was using my phone wirelessly as a webcam connected to my piece of crap computer. And I was in my basement, and I had my 4 little pugs and my Chiweenie dog running around and jumping up and down off the couch. That's what people saw. Bad lighting and everything else. But I realized as I went on that if I was going to do this and I wanted people to take me seriously, at some point you have to upscale a little bit. But the bottom line is just get started. Just start sharing that message, because you never know when you turn on your camera to go live on your phone on Facebook, or if you put a post out there on Twitter or Instagram, you never know who you're going to touch with that post. You never know who you're going to touch with that content. And the best thing about social media, unless you're doing like Snapchat or something like that, once you make that content, it's evergreen. I made that keto video that might have got 60 views, but you know what? It's always going to be there. And 3 years from now, somebody could come along and see that video, and the information in it could change their life. So why not do it? Why not do it? All right. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I have one last question to ask you. It's the same one I ask everybody that comes on the show that has anything to do with the wellness space, health and fitness, whatever. If you could change one thing about health and fitness on a global level, meaning that you would institute some sort of policy, put forth some type of new idea, whatever it would be, tell us what it would be.
I want to install in schools for children or young adults the ability to understand their mind and really lay down the understanding of psychology. Because I feel like in school, we're not really taught much about the mind and how much the mind is connected to our lives and who we are. And just installing that somehow into schools and providing a program through the schooling system, I feel like could really help children out to build more creativity and understanding of who they are. So they're not confused going through life. They're becoming stronger in a sense mentally. And I think that can really help society as a whole out, not just the individual.
So powerful. So powerful. Yeah, I've talked about this on many occasions. What we teach our kids today, our kids will teach their kids tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you look at the rates over the last 15 or 20 years of how childhood obesity has grown. And the reason that it's continuing to grow is because those kids that are obese are growing up to be adults that are obese, and they grew up doing that type of stuff. So they pass that off to their kids. And of course, now we're living in a world where everything is at your fingertips, and you don't have to get up off your ass to do anything if you don't want to. It's becoming worse and worse.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Your answer was like spot on, super powerful. Love it. Absolutely
Cool.
Love it. All right, my friend, let everybody know where they can reach out and contact you if they want to.
Definitely. The main social media page is Humble, the letter U Media. So Humble U Media. I have a free content. I post every single day, something new, mainly tailored towards the mind, but I also have some body information too. So again, Humble U Media on Instagram. And if you want to visit my site where I have coaching, I have meditations, I have a store, and more content, that's going to be Humble, again, the letter U Media.com. So humbleUmedia.com.
That's awesome. My friend, I am glad we were able to work out all the tech and all the other junk, and we were actually able to get together and do this. I knew just from the times we talked, I always do a pre-interview for people that don't know. I do a pre-interview to get an idea of people's audio and video, whatnot. And Joseph and I did this interview, and it was awesome. And I was like, I'm really looking forward to doing this episode. And then we tried, and we had all kinds of issues. And it's like, if it wasn't one thing, it was another. But I'm glad we were able to work it out, because this episode was fantastic. I'll be listening to this driving down the road in my car, probably before it's even released on YouTube. You know what I mean? Because it just is. I mean, and it's not that I like to listen to myself. It's just, I think we shared a lot of valuable information here, and I'm sure people are going to get a lot of value out of it. So, anytime you got something new going on, or you just want to get together and do an episode, just reach out to me, brother. You are more than welcome. You've got an open invitation anytime here.
John, thank you so much. I felt that connection throughout the episode, and it's great to see the work you've done on yourself. Really appreciate the opportunity to come on.
And you, man, I'm like, for you to have gone through what you went through with the whole type 1 diabetes, which blows my mind to begin with, and the fact that you didn't have to mess around. You learned all this stuff and did it yourself, kind of like I did. to run across somebody that's like-minded in a situation like that and is going through the same thing, it's amazing to me. So, all right, I'm going to switch over and wrap this thing up real quick, and then I'll be right back with you. Cool. All right, guys, we finally made it happen. This episode was friggin' amazing. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I know you guys are going to get value out of this, so don't even hesitate. Just hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the damn bell that says all. I don't know why you have to select all. If you subscribe to the channel, you want to hear everything of the videos and all that other stuff that people post anyway. But make sure you do it. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, like the video, share it with your friends. And until I see you next time, you guys know my motto. Playtime's over. Get your ass to work.